Hello and welcome to the Creativity Podcast. This is a series where we take a look at how creative people relate to and understand creativity itself. I'm your host, Nick Cook, and with me today is Matt Ford. Matt is a music producer who's better known as DJ Format. Hi Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, Nick. Thanks. How about yourself?
Yeah, not so bad, thank you. So, Matt, creativity, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's funny that you asked me today of all days, because I've literally just spent the whole weekend rearranging my studio, along with a couple of other rooms in the house as well, because of space issues and records and old studio equipment.
That sounds like a big job.
Sorry?
Sounds like a big job.
Well, part of the problem was that I had too many records on shelves in the middle of a room that I was worried about, the ceiling going in or something. And but the other thing was, I had to ask myself, why is it that I feel creativity again? I want to get back to making music, and yet every time I go in my studio, I'm getting flustered over, I'm getting flustered and distracted almost by the fact that I've got big piles of records everywhere, and I've got equipment in there that I literally never use, and it's just taking up space. And it just got to the point where I thought, I've got to have a complete, switch around and tidy up in order to just be in my comfort zone and be able to be creative. And so that's kind of.
So how is it
really
that?
But it's just happened this weekend.
Yeah. So how did you get on with that? I mean, has that kind of facilitated your creative mind at all? Yeah.
It's like I was just avoiding going in the studio, because my recent attempts over the last few months of trying to make music have been really quite stop-starty, and I just find that I'm not really able to focus. And for me, that's usually, it can be external things that are, playing on my mind or whatever. Maybe I'm not really at peace with the world, which again is something that I've discovered more as I've got older, that is quite vital to my process. If I was like really, depressed or maybe even really excited and exhilarated, I don't know. I just need to almost be on an even keel when I'm making music.
Yeah.
But now, having my studio back to being just tidy and stripped down, and records where they should be, and little piles of records that are like works in progress, songs that I'm working on, things that I'm sampling. It just really sort of aids my creative brain, so that I know where to look for things, and not having the clutter getting in the way really makes a big difference to my process. Maybe there's people out there that can relate to that, and other people will think I sound crazy, like I'm just procrastinating, but it's definitely had an effect, on my creative output in the last few months. It's like I just can't seem to settle and concentrate for long periods of time.
So it sounds to me like. So it sounds to me like a kind of environmental / external factor. So, by environment, obviously, right, there's like the physical space within your studio, but also your state of mind is your environment in a lot of ways as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would say throughout the first half of 2020, I was finishing an album, which I eventually released in sort of early 2021, Devil's Workshop. And even though the sort of the mood of the album might seem, a bit dark and a bit serious, and people said, "Oh, is it related to COVID and stuff like that?" No, none of those things. Actually, it was just, musically where my head was at the time. I just wanted to make slightly more edgy, serious, slower instrumental music.
I really liked it. Like I said, I had a listen to it, and I really enjoyed it. It's the first of your more recent stuff that I've heard in quite a while, and I think it's a good move. It's interesting, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just it's just the direction that I naturally went in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I got a bit tired of doing. It's not that I ever only made funky, old school or golden era hip hop, but that's obviously a lot of what I've done, and it's largely what I get remembered for, no matter what else I do. But I just wanted to focus on. I guess I got a bit bored of just repeating the same kind of sounds, and just wanted to explore, like I say, the slower, sort of darker, edgier sort of stuff, which I've always made, but I wanted to just do a whole album of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
So what do you think? Sort of. I mean, you say obviously COVID got mentioned, but if it's nothing to do with that, then what do you feel sort of precipitated that? Because it's quite a lot. I mean, you say you've made that type of music for a long time, but to do a whole album of it, it's quite a big move, So what's kind of facilitated that in your mind, do you think?
I think two things. The first thing was really being quite bored of rap and rappers or MCs, whatever you want to call them, and just feeling like, I just wasn't inspired to really make rap songs with people, obviously I just do the music, and also when other people are writing and performing the lyrics, that doesn't give me any sort of real scope to express myself or anything that I'm feeling, personally or artistically. So, I'm just sort of looping up beats, or just generally keeping it simple, because the music that I'm providing is largely a sort of, it's kind of 50% of it, isn't it? Really, and the other 50%, the focal point are the vocals that the rap's providing, and I just wanted to do something a bit more musically adventurous and challenging for myself. Which sort of I said I had 2 points, and that was or 2 factors, and that's the second one. I wanted to sort of challenge myself and do something more expansive musically, but also I sort of finally could actually realistically see myself making those kind of songs, an album's worth of those kind of songs, because they are a hell of a lot harder to make than rap songs. Just looping up stuff for someone else to rap over versus coming up with layers and layers of music, to have a song that actually has a beginning and an end, and hopefully takes you on a journey in the middle, all by the use of samples. I've got to come up with themes as well as musical instrumentation and whatnot, sometimes spoken word things, sometimes cutting up little vocals from old rap records, but that's something that all takes a hell of a lot of time, and even if you've got the ideas to do it, actually executing it successfully is just it's such a low success rate. I find it's really hard to pull that off. So I don't know how or why, but I sort of got into a mind state where I just felt like I've come up with a bit of a formula where I can I can just see a clearer way of making songs like that now and making them interesting. Maybe I just maybe I improved and advanced as a producer. I've been doing it for a long time. Maybe I just reached a point that I should have reached years ago, but I'd kept doing the same old thing, and largely working with rappers and kind of being quite repetitive in that respect. But I just wanted to. It's just a real urge to do something completely on my own that allowed me to musically really sort of spread my wings, and also be responsible for the concepts and the content of anything that was being said or suggested, albeit through the use of samples. I don't perform vocals myself.
So you mentioned something about a formula of having kind of developed a way of understanding making this different type of music. So what's the kind of background with that, and what is this? How do you understand this formula in a sort of practical sense?
Well, it's not like something that I've stumbled upon that I can share with other people, or even specifically follow myself, in the future. But it was just more a case of realising that I wanted to make songs that largely had, a nice vocal hook in the chorus. Something that was, singing vocal hook, you know, that really gave the song an identity, because that's the thing with making instrumental music. The last thing I want to do is make music that people just label as, you know, instrumental hip hop. You know, from that viewpoint of like, it just sounds like instrumental versions of rap records, without the rap on.
Yeah,
you know? And it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything interesting. It's like I needed to have, you know, I needed the songs to have an identity. You know, that people would be able to. Well, kind of like a hook, I suppose, as you know, as I would do with songs working with rappers as well. But you know, you want that memorable thing that people come back to, well, they identify with and find themselves, you know, singing along to, or getting the urge to listen back to because it's in their head, you know.
Yeah.
And I really focused on that side of things a little bit more, and it was also the way that I was getting those vocals. You know, I didn't want to just take a sample from one record where, yes, I got the vocals, but also I got, you know, the bass and the guitar and maybe the pianos and the drums, you know, everything from one record that was all just there. It's like I really wanted to hopefully, you know, find samples that were like a cappella, or at least stripped down, that I can manipulate in a clever way, you know, on top of, and sort of, you know, use on top of other samples, and in some cases, as I definitely did with the last album, use them out of context. So as a maybe a good example, the song called Brainstorm that I did, the vocal sample is saying, I'm so tired and worn out, I feel like quitting the game and getting out. There's so many things I just can't face. I just have to remember what the next line is now. I don't even feel like running in the race.
Yeah, so now, cheerful stuff.
Sorry?
Cheerful stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, to me, that my interpretation of that, the way that I heard it and the way that I, you know, instantly saw that I wanted to use it, was relating to myself, how I'm tired of the rat race, just in general, and very disillusioned with life, but also specifically when it came to making music, and just the constant conveyor belt of feeling like I need to, yes, I have creative urges, but also as an artist you feel like you need to, you know, have at least a certain output of music, so you're just constantly trying to make new records and outdo yourself each time, which is of course not possible.
No.
And yeah, it was it was really relating very much to, like I say, sorry, let me start that.
No, carry on.
So it was very much me making a statement as a musician. You know, I'm tired and worn out. I feel like quitting the game and getting out. It's in actual fact sampled from a religious record that's just talking about people that are basically, you know, lost in life, and they're turning to God for an answer. And so by me, you know, just flipping the context, I get a great satisfaction out of that, because of course it works on, you know, it might speak to people on different levels, you know, regardless of the way that I've used it, in the way that, you know, the religious record spoke to me on a different level, even though I knew it was a religious record. So, you know, it's just satisfaction though for me of changing the context and then building up all these samples, not only the musical samples, but then finding other spoken word samples that were talking about, you know, quitting music and just wanting to get out and get out of my head almost.
Yeah. So let's just bringing that back around to creativity then. So how did you find that this move, I don't know if you'd call it like a lateral move or a kind of just a general sort of development in your approach to production. How did you find that kind of enhanced your creativity? Did you I mean, it sounds like you gained some real satisfaction from it. But how does that kind of roll into your idea of creativity generally, in terms of those movements that we take?
Because once I think I'm onto something, once I've sort of once I've sort of mapped out, a theme and a bit of a formula for a song, it's then that I'm really able to be more creative, because that's when the ideas start flowing to the point that sometimes you just can't sort of switch it off. That's when I have trouble sleeping, because when I'm working on a song and things are going well, once I've got that theme in place, and the most exciting part is right at the beginning of, you've been playing around with the musical elements of it, with all the samples, and you start to realise that it's taking shape. It might have started to go one way, or, it was at a crossroads, it could have gone this way, it could have gone that way, and then all of a sudden you start to have more ideas that lead you in one way rather than the other, and so it naturally sort of dictates to you which way you're going to take it. And yeah, for me, that's when the creativity really can go into overdrive, because that's how my brain is at its best musically, when I've got my teeth into a theme and I can start thinking of vocal samples, especially from old hip-hop records. I can just recall stuff, God knows how and why, but stuff that, I've listened to, when I was 15 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Here I am, like, nearly 50 years old, and all these things just pop into my head, little vocal samples that I can scratch and piece together as a little musical jigsaw to tell a story, or to put a little sentence together. And with this particular album of mine being so much more musical, the same thing happened with finding the musical samples. I found that I would, for example, go off and take a shower and just completely relax, just to sort of break up my day. Maybe I'd stop for lunch, but typically if I was to take a shower, that would be the most relaxing time for me, where my brain would sort of, like, I guess, switch off for a minute, subconsciously anyway. Subconsciously, I would just start humming along, to the song that I'd been working on, and ideas would just come to me. Records would just pop into my head, things that I've been listening to for the last 20 or 30 years. Just a little guitar riff here, or a bass line there, or a horn riff there, whatever it might be. It just starts sort of popping into my head. So that's when the creative process really comes to life.
So it's so you're sort of stepping away from it and letting it kind of percolate in the back of your mind, and just seeing what bubbles up to the surface, right? The subconscious is an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because you can try and force that stuff as long as you like until you're blue in the face, and sometimes it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But once you get into a certain, or for me personally, once I get into a certain mind state, it just seems to flow. It just seems, it's the most amazing feeling. And of course, it's not as simple as just, I'm not having a very productive day, I'll get in the shower.
If only, right?
Flooding me with ideas. I mean, it's not quite as simple as that. But like I say, when the fundamental ingredients are there, so early stages of me, or it doesn't have to be early stages, but that's probably the most enjoyable, early stages of the song, just starting to, thrash out where you're going with it, and then you just start to really just starting to crack it now, and then just that sort of stepping away. I mean, and another time when the creative mind really starts to go into overdrive is either when I'm trying to get to sleep last thing at night, or when I wake up first thing in the morning. Quite often earlier than I would choose to be awake, my brain's just going into overdrive, almost just nudging me awake with ideas, and I have to sometimes just get up, write ideas down, or maybe pull out the certain records that I've had going around in my head, just so that I don't forget.
Sure.
I go, and then go back to bed again.
Are you one of these people who has a notepad by the bed? I hear that's supposed to be a good thing to do for those kind of ideas.
Yeah, because, like I say, because my ideas usually involve specifically old records that are in my collection. Having a notepad is one thing, but I just find it's better to actually just get up out of bed and go into one of the other rooms and start pulling records out. That way I can not only, I'm definitely not going to forget if I pulled the record out, but in some cases I just need to try the idea there and then, just even to get a rough idea, even if I'm not trying to execute it perfectly, but just to check, is that in the right key? Because in my head right now, I swear that's in exactly the right key.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you find that, yes, it is. Oh, my God, I think I might be a genius. And then other times you're like, no, it's nowhere near. I think I'm actually a moron. Forget about that.
Well, that's what pitch shift is for, though, isn't it? You know? I said...
Yeah, it's part of the, you know, it's part of the sort of... part of the process.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some.
So it sounds to me that, like, what you're getting at with a lot of this stuff is that you really like to create in a way where you're almost kind of putting your sense of self on the back burner, right, and just letting just the ideas drive you on their own, and so you're almost unconsciously following them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that works for, like I say, for sort of short periods when I'm not even intending it to, you know what I mean? What I mean by that is, it wouldn't work if I stayed in the shower all day. I wouldn't continue having ideas for 8 hours, apart from the fact I'd be all wrinkled up like a prune. You know, it's just something that kind of, almost just puts you in a relaxed state, gets things flowing. But then I very much do need to go back into the studio, you know, actually try out those ideas, and then usually, if, you know, especially if a lot of them work out, or even if one thing works out but really works out well, that will spawn other ideas, hopefully there and then, you know, while I'm still in the zone in the studio. You know, it's not like I need to go and take another shower, you know, to give me my next hit. So I need another idea. Come on, it's going to cost me a fortune in water bills. But
well, do you know what I mean? If someone could invent a shower that did that, right, they would be a very, very rich person. You know?
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Like I'd be in there all day. I would never get out of it, man.
I was going to say, I'm going to start working on my patented studio shower chair, where you just, you know, you sit there technically in a mobile shower cubicle, you know, so you're rolling around on your studio chair, you know, over to the turntables and then back over to the records and over to the window, and then, you know, just flick the button. Do you know what, the ideas aren't flowing today, let's just flick the button, and just a nice 40-degree stream of water on my head. Oh, that's better. Oh, I know. I could try that piano from that record I bought in 1996.
Yeah, let me know how you get on with that, man. If that's if you manage to come up with it, I think that'll basically blow everything that we know about creativity theory out of the water. So I'd really like to be on top of that. But no, like, just kind of going back to this idea of like stepping away and stuff, I think it's really important, isn't it? It's, you know, if you, it's almost like, right, I'll give you an example, right? So I don't know if you know this, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I do a lot of road cycling, right? So sometimes something that I'll do from time to time, I've kind of noticed myself doing this, is I'll try and ride along, you know, one of the lines on the side of the road, or if it's a lane, maybe in the middle or whatever. And I noticed that, like, if I look at the line and if I concentrate and try and stay directly on the line, I very rarely I'm able to do it. You know, I kind of overcorrect and I make little movements and shift my weight and stuff, and I'll end up kind of wiggling around a little bit. But then I find that if I look up and I ignore the line, then I kind of find myself almost automatically just driving straight down it. You know? Right. Does that? Do you get where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, it's as in you can overthink these things and then sort of lose sight of your goal.
Yeah,
I think that does explain it quite well.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, like you say, with, you know, with like the subconscious and everything, we're kind of, when we switch off a little bit, I mean, you know, when we switch off our conscious mind a little bit and just kind of be in the moment with what we're doing, you know, it's often, you know, when we can come up with stuff that's that little bit more satisfying or that little bit more intuitive, you know? So what are your thoughts, just to bring it back around a little bit, what are your thoughts on creativity overall in a kind of general sense? Do you have any sort of insights on that you fancy sharing, or general kind of ideas or anything?
That's a difficult one, you know. I'm not, you know, particularly philosophical, you know. I just sort of, I just mostly exist. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I just kind of get on with things. Although on the other hand, I do have a tendency to overthink everything. So why I'm not philosophical about, you know, creativity, I don't. But I just mean, to me, it's just second nature to want to be creative when it comes to music, because that's kind of all I've known my adult life. Sure. And even going back into my childhood to a certain extent, but you know, certain elements of it that I just take for granted, I don't know how they sort of run in tandem with other areas of creativity, because, you know, in my life, because just I don't know if this is a good example, but I've just been sort of decorating the house and, you know, just touching up a few bits here and there. Yeah. And I really took pride in putting up different. I've got lots of LP covers displayed around my house, right? Because obviously I collect records. Of course. So naturally, that's you know, something I want to do. But I really took pride and care in selecting the right album covers to put on the wall when I'd, you know, got a new, you know, sort of emerald green walls in my hallway, right, upstairs and down. So I really had to be specific about choosing these different coloured album covers. And to me, that was a very creative sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. Again, different to creating music, but it's something that I got great satisfaction from, and I felt that that's really important to, like, the energy of my house, and that when people come round, you know, they'll know, oh yeah, that's, you know, that's very Matt. And you know, the funny thing, I've had quite a few friends come round since I, you know, rejigged everything, and not one person has noticed. In fact, a couple of people I didn't even notice that the place had been painted. It looked completely different. I mean, my house looked like a building site in certain rooms before that, and it's like, anyway, I'm probably going off on a tangent.
Well, no,
the point is, there's all sorts of, you know, creative outlets, you know, that you can have in your life, but music is the only one where I feel like I've really got any understanding of not only the way that I work and the way that I work best, but the fact that it's such a fundamental need for me as a kind of life force. You know, if I'm not creative, I feel like something's wrong with me. You know, if I'm not in a creative sort of period, you know, I can go for months without being creative, and I really struggle. You know, it can get me down. It can, you know, other times I'm at peace with it, and I just accept that. Okay, I'm just having a non-creative period, and I'll come back to it as and when the urges come back. But it's just something that I've come to understand, that is so fundamental to me being the happiest version of myself. You know, I need to be creating, and largely that needs to be from music.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know what you know, how it is for other people. You know, God knows. You know, as for getting philosophical about it, I just don't know.
And that seems like a good place to wrap up. So, thank you once again to my guest, Matt Ford, DJ Format. Matt, where can people go if they want to find out a bit more about you and have a listen to what you've been doing?
Yes, I'm not fantastic at the whole self-promotion and social media kind of thing. I do sporadically use Instagram, so that's probably a good place to sort of find more, not even day to day, but, you know, things about gigs or what I'm up to, new releases, stuff like that. I'm more likely to mention on either Instagram or Facebook. So just search, you know, at DJ Format. I think the Facebook is possibly DJ Format UK. I've also got a YouTube channel with, you know, loads of old videos, not just old, but you know what I mean, music that I've made over the years, which again I think is possibly DJ Format UK. And I think my Mixcloud, again, I think I originally set it up as Matt Ford and then maybe switch the ID so that it says DJ Format. So there you go. Mixcloud, Facebook and Instagram are probably your best bets. I've got a website, djformat.com, which I don't think I've updated since 2011 or 2012.
Yeah.
Much to my shame. I paid to maintain the domain, to keep my .com, and then do nothing about it because I'm terrible with technology and computers and stuff like that. So there you go. Anyone listening and wants to help sort my website out, in exchange for some free records, let's talk.
All right. So I'll put some links in with the description and other blurb and stuff.
Nice one.
Thanks again, Matt. I've been Nick Cook. This has been the Creativity Podcast. Thank you for listening, and until next time, goodbye.